Welcome back, everyone. I'm Yari Wrench, and this is Torolf Severin, and we're starting with the top 8 of the 3.5k Modern Qualifier. And we have a matchup from Team of Breach, played by Masaya Hoshino, also known as Myra, against Eldrazi Ramp, played by Hermann Fehlauer.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the most common matchups, actually, in the meta.
Yeah.
So we can see how it plays out and hopefully learn how to beat the best decks next week in Utrecht, which will also be awarding points for the European Unity League. So let's head down to the feature match and start the matches. Let's tell the players to go. Ja, also wir haben keine Produkte.
Okay, so we got Masaya Hoshino on Team Bridge, the deck of, well, you could say modern, right? That's the boogeyman of the format. Playing against Hermann Fehlauer, we saw him on Eldrazi Ramp here on the top side of the screen, and there is the patented start of at least 3 cards that cost no mana, Urza Saga, and 2 0-mana artifacts, Vox Ember, Vox Opal. What a perfect start.
I mean, you still need another artifact. Is it a mulligan to 5?
It looks like a mulligan to 6. And Ugin's Labyrinth into a Talisman. Also one of the better starts of it. That's very good.
It's like the best start you can have, right?
Yes.
It's like it's 3 mana on turn 1, so it means 4 into 2.
Next turn, you can maybe play Writhing Crystallis. You can set up a microspawn that looks for a land. There's Grinding Station. That is the third artifact that will turn on Metalcraft, meaning Vox Opal now will make an additional mana. And that will come in handy next turn also when you're fetching for something, maybe making a token before that happens. Eldrazi Ramp, especially the GUI version, is not the version that where the token is the most relevant because they usually get to bigger things much quicker than you.
Yeah. But it does still provide some value. I mean, it's another artifact you can use.
Okay, we're sacrificing the Mox Opal. Funnily enough, the Grinding Station is a trigger that happens for the station as well, meaning as soon as the station enters the battlefield, you will untap it. Something that is a bit counterintuitive, but that's how the rules of Magic work. And you see another use of the milling this time from the Malevolent Rumble. Yes. More lands, lots of stuff. And we see a breach. Okay. So a lot of moving, but not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how much was played in the first turn. Like from both sides, honestly. Like Modern is like just a format of like so many free spells. It's kind of crazy. And like free and like mana acceleration these days.
Well, that's the part of Magic. The more cards you print, naturally, the more zero cards added to the game, and there's a density that is problematic, especially if you have cards like Mox Opal that are heavily rewarded for just having the thing, the type line card artifact into like 0 mana cards or what you want to use. Now the decision on Urza Saga, do you want to use the Saga to make a token before she goes away and gets another artifact? My inclination is probably not.
Yeah. So I assume, I guess, Hermann is keeping up the command. And he does not have... He plays the Karn, right? So he does not have a Karn. Oh, no, he doesn't play the Karn. Oh, he plays a Trini Sphere instead. So I guess the best card for him... No. So I guess he plays the Kozilek's command and the Trini Sphere are the main ways to hate out his opponent. And I guess he also... Oh, he does not play the Bajuka Bog in the main deck. No. So the only ways to interact really game 1 is the Kozilek's command and the Trini Sphere. And of course, I mean the Emrakul to some degree, but it's slow. So in this case,
Okay.
the matchup doesn't seem that great for the draws deck, I would feel, but we'll see. And that is a breach, isn't it?
Is that a fancy version breach?
Yeah, it's the alter dart breach.
Asking the question, do you have anything? Because if you don't, I have a grinding station, I have an underworld breach, many moxes to choose from. That's basically the whole package you need to say, because like once you mill your whole library, okay, there's a fetch. You have access to, this time it's Thassa's Oracle, because no grape shot. So there's a response from Hermann. And the full 4 mana for Kozilek's command for 2.
Exiling, but it does it even do anything? It doesn't, right? If you cast it now, it doesn't do anything. The only thing you could do is try to play around the Thassa's Oracle or the Grape Shot. I guess he plays the Oracle, right?
So the decision is to
Yeah.
scry 2, draw a card, and exile 2 of the 0 mana artifacts. But I'm pretty sure the Rumble or anything following can find that.
I mean, he has 2 in play and another one in the graveyard, like the Torma script, so I don't think it matters.
All right,
Yeah.
sacrifice, loot, there's another Mox Ember, so that generates the mana, and from this moment on, it's trivial.
Yeah, there's no way to interact from Heron Sign, so yeah, he just scoops it up.
All right, wow, that's, yeah, as fast as it can go. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Play the grinding station, play the underworld breach, win the game.
Yeah.
Profit. Let's have a look at the sideboards. This is the biggest question as an underworld breach player, the Teemo breach player. What is my opponent bringing? And the answer is a bit.
Let's have a look.
Mages.
Let's have a look at the deck list. Maybe first start out with the Eldrazi version. I think that's usually more interesting to see like what they hate they bring, and then we can see how the breach deck responds. So I think we have seen a similar matchup before. So I guess the Oof is really strong. The Nature's Claim is probably also an option, and
Good enough, yes.
the rest is not so exciting. I mean, maybe you can make an argument for Dismember, but the rest is definitely not so good. And what you cut is probably the Kozilek's Return. I mean, the Harrigast
Yeah,
might not be the greatest.
I'm not sure how strong Harrigan is.
The
It
World
might
Breaker might also be a thing you cut, but I think you also cannot cut too many of the 7 drops, right? Because then you run out of targets for the.
Harrigast is a good jumping point to Emrakul. If you manage to sacrifice a Crystallis, pay for it, then you can emerge Emrakul
Yeah,
for basically for free, right? If Emrakul costs 9. So it might be good enough to bridge that one turn where you have an Emrakul and cannot cast it for 9 mana.
yeah, yeah. It's tough to say what you cut. I
Would you
mean,
go up
maybe
to the to keep all the Kozilek's commands? They're too good, right? Way too good.
no, the Kozilek's command. You mean you took cut Kozilek's command?
Yeah, that's not an option, right?
No, that's not an option. That's I think the card is still important, even though it didn't do much this game we saw.
It looks like a card that seems like it interacts a lot, but most of the time it doesn't do enough. But it's still in the case of making some spawns,
Yeah,
scrying.
uh, still does quite a bit. So I think you still want to keep it. I mean, like sometimes they mill the station and then it's pretty strong to exile the graveyard. But if they have the station in play, then the graveyard hate is like a punctual graveyard hate is not that strong. But still, like I'm still a bit confused how to cyber. Maybe you can cut some of the lands and they maybe like one Harrigast and then maybe a Chrysalis or something like this. It's really hard for me to say like how you board. I mean, you definitely want the oofs. The oofs are definitely great. And
So you're
then
looking at 5 cards, 2 Nature's Claim, 3 oofs, and then not that much more, right? Like maybe Dismember to kill the Tamio and the
yeah,
Emry. That's
but
probably good enough to be that early.
I'm not so sure. I mean, my problem with this arguments of people to like board a bit of removal against breach is just like all of the creatures are legendary, and just killing like one creature just doesn't accomplish like that much
Mm-hmm.
because they will just they often have like duplicates. So like killing one of them just doesn't like give you so much of an advantage. Like right, if your opponent is like turn one or like turn one, I got Tamio, Mox Ember, tap, play like another card. Then it's your turn. You kill with one and you dismember the Tamio. Next turn they play another Tamio. Tap the 1 mana again to play a card. Like you get super behind. So like I think usually, if in a matchup like this, it's a better strategy to just ignore the creatures and focus on the things that really matter, which is like the combo. And for
But
this
can you
reason,
really ignore a Tamio or an Emery that is in play for 2 or 3 turns?
yeah, I think
That's
so. I think so. I
oh
think
wow, okay.
it depends on the matchup, of course. Like if
Mm-hmm.
like against Boros Energy, probably not. I mean, it depends. If you can get a Flage, you can still go over the top.
Mm-hmm.
But in a matchup like this, where if the game goes late, you just go Emrakul and win. I think it's more costly to bring in a card that does trade for like one of the creatures, like Dismember, compared to just go focusing more on just getting the Emrakul down, because that's really what's going to win the game in the end. So yeah. So I think boarding Dismember is probably not something I would do personally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can see the arguments for it, but just in my experience, it just yeah. I mean, like if you dismember the Emery and it unlocks the second Emery in their hand, which means you put their Emery with the dismember in the graveyard and they play another one to mill another 4 cards. It doesn't really help that much, right? So yeah. So if you just have like very like I mean the important part is to just kill all the creatures. If you can kill all the creatures, it's good. But just killing like one is usually not that great against Breach, in my opinion. Um, yeah, so that's kind of like my experience with the deck. The Nature's Claim is also interesting because if you have like one Swan Song, like can we have a look at the other deck list? The Nature's Claim, if you have like one Swan Song or one Spell Pierce or something in the graveyard, then the Nature's Claim will do absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a double-edged sword, right? I mean, in some situations you can kill the Breach with it and it's great, but other than that, it's just not so good of a card in the matchup, right? Because like the Emery will bring back basically anything. I mean, you can kill the Saga, but the Saga is not the strongest card because the going over the top is generally what you go for.
But 1 mana Stone Rain is good enough, right? If you have the choice, your opponent plays a Saga on turn 1. Do you want to claim it? That's usually a yes.
That is true. That is true. But it's just not, yeah, that common that you can get it. And like, I mean, the Breach deck, like, it has so many moxes that it's like not even that bad if you lose like a land sometimes. But if you go like,
Who doesn't know the feeling of, yeah, I have so many mocks and it doesn't matter if you Stone Rain me for a mana.
yeah, that's kind of like the truth, honestly. So and I don't think the Saga is particularly strong in this matchup because there's no hate piece
Yeah,
that is very
this is not the
important.
matchup where the actual token making or tutoring for that mana is that important because you have so many boxes, they're redundant, so another one isn't too helpful. Especially if
Yes.
you have one of each, the mana is kind of you just a Lotus Petal, but you also sacrifice your land, so it's kind of awkward. And then the tokens don't really add to your game plan.
No. So I think yeah. So I don't think it's that valuable to Nature's Claim the Breach. Yeah, I'm personally not sure how to decide, but I feel like maybe it's fine to just board out the Kozilek's Return and just bring in the oofs. So 3 for free.
Mhm.
Um, um,
Interesting. Where do you feel like you need a Jace? Is that if somebody plays something that removes your Oracle?
yes, I mean just generally against decks with like lots of graveyard hate, you'd like to have a second win condition.
So in that
Because
sense,
the problem is like if you play like a lot of Emerys and Malevolent Rumble, and like the more I play with Emery, the more I realize that it's actually just one of the cornerstone cards of the deck because it enables all of your Moxen and it makes you redundant, or like it gives you protection against like Wrath of the Skies and similar kinds of effects, or
right.
like Nature's Claim. Um, so for this reason, like you want to keep them in, all of them usually, and then you have the risk that you mill your one fastest Oracle and then it gets exiled. And
Yes.
it's just a huge risk over the course of like a 10-turn game when you like draw so many cards, play so many emeries, mill so many cards, that there's like just your only win condition to get exiled, and that's why you play the chase as a backup win condition.
There's also something very important that seems kind of obvious when you think about it the first time. You have a torpor orb in your sideboard from the Eldrazi ramp, which prevents creature having entered the battlefield effects. And if you look at your opponent's deck list, the only way to win is to cast a Thassa's Oracle, which is a creature entering the battlefield. So why wouldn't I board it, right? It prevents my opponent from winning. Why isn't it good? But the answer is it's actually not good, because in the board state where your opponent manages to win the game, they also manage to just deal with your torpor for free. They have a nature's claim, they can bounce it. So it's actually not a solution, but people don't imagine the game state at that point, board the card, and that's such a huge detrimental thing. But you're basically starting with a mulligan. If you cast it, you started with a mulligan paying 2 mana, and that's something you cannot afford.
Yeah, the thing is also like, I think the Timber Breach deck usually brings in the Nature's Claim just to kill. Like, it's already good to kill the Utopia Sprawls and the Talismans
Yes.
of the world. So and there's a Trinisphere, so you definitely already bring all the artifact hate, which means the Torpor Orb is so free to deal. Like in the end, like just 1 mana, exile 3 cards, and that's all you need. And so it doesn't really accomplish anything. That's why the new things that the Sudex plays. What is it called? I need to check what the card is called.
Here we see,
The
meanwhile, where you
Doorkeeper Troll that also prevents the triggers from artifacts entering the battlefield, which shuts off the station, and that's actually an important effect. But the Torpor itself doesn't really accomplish that much.
you see the patented start of, again, playing 3 cards on turn 1. That, I mean, at one point you're just thinking like, it's just common, right? I mean, yes, you play so many cards that cost 0 mana, so it's kind of guaranteed you get some of them, but it still looks impressive every time. On the other side, what's also even maybe more impressive, look at that Trinisphere. That's a game shut down if I've seen one. Your mocks are really cool. If you would have had Meadowcraft, that would have been not as a problem, because you can cast your first spell next turn, but Trinisphere now basically says, good luck getting the 3rd artifact, and good luck getting 2-3 mana for each of your spells. That's crazy. Definitely advantage for the Eldrazi deck, especially if there's a threat coming out next turn, because Trinisphere doesn't leave much time.
Yeah. I mean, it just, at this point, it just buys so much time that by the time you recover from it, it will probably be too late to catch up in the game. But Messiah playing really smart. He turn 1 played all of the 0 mana artifacts just to play around
to
the
avoid it.
Trinisphere.
And one of the questions that might occur, if I have an Emery that reduces Emery's cost for 1 for each artifact, doesn't that also apply to the Trinisphere? Because, well, Trinisphere sets it to 3, then it costs less. But the answer is basically Trinisphere is the last thing that ever happens to any spell, meaning no matter what the question is, everything costs 3, at least, always.
Yes,
So,
that's the Trinisphere rule. The
yes.
rule that only exists because of the Trinisphere.
Basically, yeah.
That's magic. You have like
Trinisphere is like your mother. She always has the last word.
yes. No, it's I just personally think it's kind of crazy that Magic has some cards that have like a specific rule around it. That only applies for this one card, which is funny. Like the Emrakul, which has the rule that you cannot look at the sideboard anymore if you control your opponent's turn, was only because this card existed. Which is
Oh, yeah, look at that. We also have the top 8 here in the chat. You can find it, or we can tell you. We have first place Pascal Grossman versus 8th place Baal King Honus. Second place Diego Santini versus 7 Louis de Metz. Third place Masaya Oshino. This is what we see right now against Hammond Ferro. And then Felipe Sousa versus Jan Guillaume Jacquard. So it turns out not all the 5-1-1s actually made it, right? Because
no, I talked to Simon Eng before, and he's unfortunately didn't make it. Tough luck for him.
Yeah, because we saw the last round thinking that maybe he secured a spot, but unfortunately there were way too many players.
Yes, yes. Also, let me, while I'm at it, I can quickly upload the results for Unity League.
And
Then you can
meanwhile,
see then we can just see the deck lists in the on the website already, which would be
you see the potent combination of Trinisphere and then destroying your opponent's lands
yeah.
or exiling them that better. So, oh, I just get up to 3 to cast a spell, but did you really? Because I'm going to exile one of them. So good luck finding the next
Yeah.
one. So there is a next one now, but let's see. For 3 mana, your one spell for the turn is Tamio. All right.
Yeah, it's the most powerful 3 mana creature in the deck.
To be
I mean,
fair, then once you cast Tamio, she makes some clues for free, and then you can draw cards, and that
so you can pay less mana to draw the cards than you need to cast them, which means you
exactly.
draw more cards that you cannot cast, which is
Yeah, you
an
can
amazing
spend your mana
combo.
drawing cards, which is like just a shift of priorities. You should be happy that just Trinity tells you how easy it is.
Yes.
Unfortunately, your opponent also using all their mana now, and yeah, they're using much more mana. That's 5 in total now. 4. What is the next thing? A Kozilek's command. Okay, for 3. Well, Tamio, you paid 3 mana. No, she's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another reason why you should not maybe not bring in this member, because the Kozilek's return has a nice target, and if
Yeah,
you
not
don't
all the
really
modes on Kozilek's command are exciting. They're
Kozilek's
all
command, yeah.
they're all kind of like good. So as soon as you can apply one of them, like in a real good scenario, like exiling a Tamio, you're very happy, and then the rest is a bonus. Malevolent Rumble, ooh yeah. Devourer of Destiny, again, not the strongest one against the deck because like most of the things is colorless anyway. But also something that removes a Tamio. So if you pay your 3 mana to cast a Tamio, opponent taps their free lands to exile it. And yeah, this is where we see the breach deck having a big problem because just of one little tiny permanent called Trinisphere, your
Yeah,
opponent
that's
con-
the tough luck that you have when you play the best deck in the format. Everyone is gunning for you and even playing main deck hate cards against you, and when you draw them, they're usually quite good.
and now that looks like an emerald could count if I've seen one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, that's enough.
But you know what
Oh,
the problem is? You cannot combo kill your opponent if you
mm.
control the
I,
Trini Sphere.
yeah, I think I think the problem was not accepted by Masaya.
Yes, I mean you still just loses on the crackback, unfortunately, but yeah. Yeah, so let me share in the chat. We already have the results from the Swiss round up, so let me share that. So you can have a look there, and you'll also see the deck lists right with the link that I shared in the chat. You can have a look, and you see the full results of the tournament.
In case you're wondering what to play next turn, 150 players made a little tournament for you to see the results.
Yeah,
Do we have deck names according to the top 8 of the players? Like the actual decks they're playing? I
yes, I can
I
tell you
assume
the
Pascal
breakdown.
is playing Breach.
Yes,
Very
yes,
I know Pascal and he does seem to be like a Breach player to me.
yes. He does play Breach. So we have Teamer Breach ranked first. So we have 1, 2, 3 Teamer Breach. So there's also Bal Quinones. He's also playing Breach. Then
Mm-hmm.
we have one Brute Scale combo, well, a blast from the past, and then we have
Oh,
2 Eldrazi decks with
yes.
Jan Guillaume, Shakar, and Herman that we
Mm-hmm.
see here, and
Mm-hmm.
then we have 1 Yagmoth and 1 Black White mid range.
Oh, okay. So except for energy, everybody has kind of their favorites in the top 8. Interesting that energy didn't make it.
Yeah, and she didn't make it somehow. Yeah, I
So what
think
does that mean? Energy decks are decks from the past.
yeah, I'm not sure that there wasn't not that many people playing energy actually. Like even Andrea Mengucci is switching to Catermos.
Mm-hmm. How did Andrea do? Do we see that here?
I think he made top 16. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Bengucci. Yeah, he did top. He was 15th with Catermos. Yes.
Ah, yeah. Oh, beautiful. And on the website, you can click on the deck lists, so you can see the standings and the deck lists. Nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. We have our decklist integration feature, which pairs really nice with Companion because Companion or Event Link doesn't have support to upload decklists. And
Hmm.
if you're an organizer on a site, you can just like have click one button and you can collect decklists for your event. And then at the end, they will be shown in the ranking once you upload the results, assuming
Nice.
that players use the same name, which they hopefully do, if they want to get their EUL points. And then yeah, that's how it works.
Pretty sweet. You see, there's a creativity deck, top 16, a blue Tron, unfortunately, yes, finishing 10th. That makes my heart a little sad. Emulate Titan, we see Belcher. Lots of interesting decks. Okay.
Yeah, there's also one of these Doorkeeper Sudex. That's the Doorkeeper is the troll that
Hmm.
I still haven't quite understood why they played in this specific deck, but I guess it helps with the Flageon and Null Drifter that they play.
Yeah, it just means you get to keep the card.
Yeah, I guess so. That's the strategy. But is there any other reason for it? I guess only creatures or artifacts, so it's only those two. Yeah, but I mean, I guess it's still kind of strong. But still,
It
like, if you
also maybe just randomly shuts your opponents down against the energy deck. It's pretty good because they don't get energies for things entering the battlefield.
yeah, that's true.
Against Breach, it shuts off something as well. So
Yeah, I
it
mean,
might be just in your deck. You're wanting to play the card against other decks, and then you just build a deck around it where you abuse the upside as well. It reminds me a little bit of the um, Lotus Field thing, where you just played the thing that shuts down the trigger of Enter the Battlefields, and then just
yeah,
played Lotus Field around it.
yeah. It's similar to that. And I mean, the good part about this card is just like, yeah, it's pretty, as you mentioned, it's pretty strong in the meta. It's also good against the black-white deck, which is another deck, Enter the Battlefield trigger deck.
Yeah.
It's not, it's just bad against the Eldrazi, which is so common matchup. The rest against all the other decks is pretty decent. But I mean, I don't know. In the end of the day, you still play against a lot of random decks. So
At the end of the day, it's also just a 1-2. Like it is flash. So you might get your opponent off guard, but it's just a 1-2. So it gets lightning bolted or whatever
yeah,
people play.
yeah. Anyway, let's focus on cards that are actually being played in this match. So Herman is
So
mulligan
far,
to 5 or 6, I think.
yeah, mulliganing for the Eldrazi decks, a very important tool, not a downside, a tool, because most of their lands that they really want make 2 mana, and you cannot play a fair game of Magic where you just have forest and stomping grounds. You need to find your Topia Sprouts, your Eldrazi Temples, because your opponent's deck is inherently doing something very powerful, winning the game with a 2-card combo. So you have to find your mana pieces, and once you have access to lands that make you multiple mana, you don't really care about that 1 or 2 card that you put on the bottom. So better mulligan, and mulligan very strictly instead of keeping a hand that does only something on turn 2 or 3.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, it's the curse of the Tron deck. I mean, it's not a Tron deck, but it's similar then to this style of deck. It's just important to have the right combination of ramp in the early opening hands. Otherwise, like if you don't have the ramp early, like what's the purpose of it?
Yeah. Devour Destiny here is a trigger. It's a super weird trigger because it kind of you have to do it now, but it only is in
Wait,
your
but
upkeep.
Herman, oh yeah, Herman won, right? So yeah. Wait, so the
So we
result
have
is
to.
actually switched.
No, it's a 1-1 now.
Oh, it's a 1-1. Yeah,
Yeah, we need to add a dot to Hammond.
yeah. That's I was confused.
Tamio, turn 1. Okay. I wanted to say, I don't see a third permanent. I don't see a fourth permanent. Right. Look at that. And, whoa. That's crazy. You have 2 bubbles. That means if you pop in your opponent's turn, you just flip Tamio.
Yeah, but you missed on a clue, which might be useful too. It depends like what he has. But I guess if
Okay.
he
I
doesn't have,
think at this point, I get the very justified question of what is the ultimate of Tamio? Because
it's
you're flipping on turn 2. That means she has a +2.
yeah. So it's like turn 2 you go to 4, turn 3 you go to 6, turn 4 you go to 8, turn 5 you can ultimate. So it still takes some time, But if you have like a consign to memory, you can like buy a couple of turns, and then the time you should be able to ultimate and win the game.
So who would know what it does? Almost
It's
nobody. I'm helping you. Oh, do you? You have a shot? Go for
Yeah,
it.
I know what it does. I played the deck myself. I mean, you draw half your library, round it up, and you have no maximum hand size.
It's funny to me that says you have no maximum hand size because I'm pretty sure there was no turn ever after passing with the terminal. I'm like,
No,
ultimate.
I had this situation before. It does come up.
You drew half your deck and you didn't win?
Yeah. I mean, like sometimes your opponent has like, I don't know, Trinity Sphere in play, and you cannot win, and you don't have the hate card, and it's in the last 10 cards, and then you just draw 10 cards. You cannot play everything, and then and your opponent doesn't do anything either because they have a Trinity Sphere or whatever. And then sometimes happens.
Yeah.
But we do actually see the Dismember turn one, so it was actually brought in, which is interesting.
Very good. And here, of course, very trivial to remove Tamio before she gets the chance to flip. If you also don't have a turn two play, you don't need to sacrifice both bubbles. You can just do one, get the trigger for making a clue, sacrifice the clue,
Oh,
therefore
there's
have your
no
third
second
draw.
land.
No. That's impossible.
Oh, and
It's
that's an
not.
oof, so you have to sack.
How do you keep your bubble if you don't have a second land?
That's a good question.
Like,
I think the answer is because he has an Emery. So he was hoping to draw the second land, and then he can slam the Emery before he has the
oh, that's
Zukrek.
so tough.
But now, yeah, that must be the reason.
All right. Mellow level and rumble. What do we see? A land, a forest, an Emrakul, and a Harrigast.
That's a crazy artwork.
Ah, that is, yeah, one of the Modern Horizons 3 special artworks. Emrakul enters the hand, and that's a discount of already land, creature, instant. So that's 3. Sorcery, rumble. That's 4. Very good. So we're halfway there. Living on a prayer.
Yes.
Even more than halfway. Look at that. 6 mana.
Yeah, you can basically
So if
cast
you,
in like 1 or 2 turns. Yeah, it's pretty
yeah,
strong.
one more temple or Ugin and one more um, normal land, just add a mana. How do you get out of the situation? This is basically the constant question you have to ask yourself as a breach player. Not only how did I get into this situation, this is usually not your fault, it's your opponent's fault, but then how to get out of it. As I explained, you're playing Sudoku, but your opponent makes you juggle all of your pieces while you have to put out the fire while trying to solve the one asking question: how do I get the 2 cards that I'm playing onto the battlefield at the same time? We see Otawara, very good. Third land, already promise. And now is a question: does that look like a value breach? Is
I
that
mean,
Is
I
that a
mean,
breach just because to play Tamio again?
the Tamiya is not even doing that much because,
She
yeah.
blocks all 3. 2 life.
So I think the way you get back into this game is if Myra has like a lot of. I mean, if he doesn't have artifacts nor lands, he probably has like a lot of. Oh my god, he actually does it. Okay.
Okay.
I would assume like the way to get back into this game if you have consigned to memory in hand, which would make sense given the situation. And he
Yes.
didn't mulligan so much compared to Herman. So I would assume he has some hate cards. Like what does he have in his hand? I guess he has a breach.
More breaches. You could argue that your breach is in your graveyard after this turn, so you're shifting woodlands at any point, but you also need Delirium for that, so that's not trivial if you now remove your graveyard. There's no Eldrazi Temple, that's 7, and that's the Devour of Destiny we've seen, yeah. Kind of reminding your opponent, you should have known that I have this and will cast this. Oh no, that's a Microsynth. Oh, they had both. Yeah, that's also very strong. Micro spawn,
Yeah.
exiling the land, getting the land. Now, basically, a very promised end next turn.
do, do we know if he has the?
He picked up an Emrakul from the Malevolent Rumble.
I see. Yeah, then then it's probably just game unless he has the consign. I think that's the only way to get back into this game.
So
Does he
it's
have it?
the classic question: consign or concede?
Yes, the best question of them all.
Okay, make a clue. Basically, a stone that doesn't do anything. Type lang artifact. Effect 0. You can now cast your frogmites for 1 mana less. Is that question being answered by no, sir? Please remove your Emrakul and your trigger from the game.
Yeah.
Or I might go to dinner within the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's the situation.
Personally, if you're afraid now of the consign to memory, you can also just play the Devourer and say, okay, I exile Tamio. You still have to prove to me that you're going to win the game.
Yeah.
It's not that unlikely. Your opponent, as you know, because it's open deck list, and you probably assume because pretty much everybody is running consigned to memories 4 off in their sideboard. So your opponent is not doing much. You can kind of educated guess yourself to the point where you're pretty sure your opponent has one. Let's see. 7, 8, 9, 10. You don't even have to sacrifice the spawn. And that is the Devourer of Destinies. All right.
Yes.
So
But that
that's
one
the
you can
compromise.
but that one you can just ignore theoretically. I mean, I guess you're just gonna die if you don't counter it. So you just
Yeah,
ignore it.
you can ignore it to the point that it's 10 damage on the battlefield that just removes your life total. But
Yeah.
besides that, you can just ignore it.
Yeah. So
And
now the good thing is also that Myra has the wizard. So if he has the flame of honor, that would also be a good way to come back into the game. Especially if the Tamio flips afterwards, it ignores the.
oh, so you're saying you use the kill the collective oof and draw 2. Yeah, that's the consign out of the game.
Yeah, that would be the
That
ideal
would be
way.
ideal, yeah, because then you got rid of the problem. Keep the Tamio around for the planeswalk effect of regrowth, and you draw 2. That would be pretty strong.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, it's just a fetch land for Surveil 1. Tamio lives to fight another day. You still can't use your artifacts. And you still have the same question next turn. Are you going home because that Emrakul is winning the game?
We'll see. I still have a feeling he might have another one, another consign, but
Surveil? Is that resolving? What are you going to do with that card? Is it good enough to keep it? You have to imagine there are not many cards you really want to keep, except for if they're really, really good.
yeah, I mean it's just kind of like consign or bust at this point.
All
I
right,
mean,
it's kept.
is it kept? It looks like he's still thinking, if he puts it like this way.
What could be a card that provokes you about thinking? It needs to be something that answers. Is it maybe a flame? Could that be a flame where he's like, okay, that is an answer, but it's not really good enough? Because if my opponent casts an Emrakul, it's basically Emrakul, right? Your opponent, you know your opponent is going to do that. So is a flame good enough? This is one of the jobs as an opponent. If your opponent see your opponent thinking, why would they think?
I mean, the previous turn it was pretty good, but like right now it's tough because the Emrakul is just gonna kill you.
I'm going to tell you that card is entering the graveyard. It's not good enough. If you're thinking, you don't want that card. Put it away. Ah! Denied. All right. Then better do something good with it.
Let's see. I'm curious what it was.
Tamio might enter the zone of blocking because of an O3 can still block the Ooth. As I said, the investigating token doesn't give you anything really because you can't crack it because of the Ooth. You can say, oh, if I cast a Mox Opal, I have Metacraft, but yeah, you still can't use the Mox Opal for the same reasons. What is the line? 3 mana 4 mana. Taking 1 to fetch. No, yes. Okay. So there is a plan.
Does he have? He has a basic, right, that he can get. Yes.
There is an island. Beautiful Champions of Kamigawa Island.
So yeah, I still don't really see how he could get out of this. I mean, I think now the best thing that can happen is like kill the oof, draw 2 cards,
Look at that. We're adding a clue.
and then counter the trigger of the Emrakul, and then you need to win the backswing or something like this.
So
Does
this is the
Yes.
flame. It was a flame. I tell you, it was a flame.
Yeah.
Tamio.
Tamio should flip.
Did he draw just one? I didn't see it exactly.
Oh, he missed the trigger.
I think, but that's a flame, right? It's like a fancy Unford flame.
Yeah, it is a Flame of Honor. He missed the trigger somehow. But what does he do now? Or he just plays the Emery and just gets hit by the Emrakul. But I guess
Wait, but if you would have flipped Tamio, you could have just rebought the
yeah, he
control.
realizes now. Yeah, they now realize it's the issue. But it's just
Oh, there's a Mox Opal. So that's metacrafting. So you still have access to it.
but can you so you can still cast the thing.
You can
Oh, wow.
counter the control effect instead of
Yes.
countering the whole Emrakul.
Yes, if you can counter the control effect, then I think he wins because he has the breach in hand. Oh, and the breach. No, he doesn't. Yeah, he has the breach in the graveyard already, so that will also win. So he just
And
needs
you
to counter the Emrakul. That's
and
the
you
only.
have to assume that this is what's going on because I know Tamio has to plus first, right? She ends on 2. You can't just plus her on the beginning. Okay, yes. You can't rebuy something because she enters on 2 and needs to have 3 counters to buy something back. All right. Well, this is a very deterministic situation because your opponent kind of knows once you untap, you won the game. So you will
Might
have
as
to.
well cast the Emrakul and see what happens.
Yes, exactly. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You also have a Nugent's Labyrinth. That's not Labyrinth. Where you can sacrifice the land to get a creature. Yes, this one. So you can get a colorless creature of any mana.
But is there anything that's relevant this turn? I don't think so.
You can get a Haywire Might if you have that.
Oh, yeah, that would of course work.
But it's not in the deck list, unfortunately.
No, you can.
You can get no. You can
Another
get a
Emrakul.
Microspawn, but you don't have the mana to cast it. You can get another Emrakul, yeah.
So let's see if Myra really has the consign. No, he doesn't have it, does he? No, he doesn't.
Then I'm afraid.
Yeah, and the game's probably over, assuming. Yeah.
All right. So we enter the typical state of do your worst with my deck. There's an Underwood Breach.
But I think you can just win. There's a grinding station in the graveyard, so I think if Herman plays perfectly, then it should be game over. But we'll see. But I think you'll find the line to win at this point. I think it's very unlikely that.
Emrakul is so fun. Look at that. So fun. Like, there's nothing more satisfying than playing your opponent's deck and beating them with it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Here, take 2. Playing Underwood Breach. Yeah, this is all but over.
Yeah. Curious which line he takes. I think. I mean, I guess there's not much to do. It's just play breach, play a station, do the combo, pass the turn.
Where did the station come from? Was it milled from a rumble?
From the Emery that he played the previous turn.
Okay. There's
Yeah.
also another Flame of Arnor. Not that it helps now, but I wonder. It still seems to not be that obvious. Okay, that's the breach.
Could he have? Oh no, it wouldn't have worked. Yeah,
What
no,
is
he,
what is?
sorry, I was just wondering if he could have.
I'm wondering why it's so difficult. Like, is there no grinding station in the graveyard? That's a consign. Okay, I'm confused.
Yeah, there's a grinding station, but I think.
But if you don't make your opponent lose that turn, they have an extra turn after the Emrakul. So you have to deprive them of any resource possible, especially the graveyard.
Yes.
So you're exiling the Underworld Breach. Okay. And then you want to counter this?
That does not work
Okay. No, that does not work.
because it's inactivated. Oh, no, but maybe he counted the life gain.
Okay.
I mean, I guess he could have countered the life gain if that's correct.
Wait, and that's just your opponent's turn? So we have a chance? So you say we have a chance?
What? But then it's just game over, isn't it?
Because you can just activate the Woodlands for the Underworld Breach?
Yes, and then cast the.
No way. I guess this is a prime example of
Not knowing how to play breach.
just let your opponent do it and you might still live.
Yes. Yeah, I think. Yeah, if you just play breach and play the station and middle your deck, I think then you just win like this. But I think that now, I mean, he has the 2 clues, he has the mox, so that's enough to play the breach.
Okay, so let's get a masterclass of how to do it. We're copying the breach.
But yeah.
Now we have access. This is the grinding station. Yeah, tell me how what you should have done in my turn.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, breach is also like really like the hardest deck anyone can play. I mean, in my opinion, like I played a lot of difficult decks over the years, and like breach is really the pinnacle of everything. Like there's like when you start to play around like hate cards at instant speed, like surgicals and stuff,
Surely.
it gets so incredibly complicated, and like a lot of super small decisions kind of like end up mattering super much.
All right, yeah. Wow, Messiah with 1 foot out of the
I didn't.
door.
I really didn't believe it. I really didn't believe it. Honestly, it's insane how he pulled off to win this game.
Well, that's where you gain your
It looked
advantage.
like it looked so bad in the early turns, and then like somehow he was able to pull off his opponent. Luckily for him, making the mistake with the Emrakul, not knowing exactly what to do with the breach.
If that really teaches you anything, it's not over until it's over. And for this
Yes.
Messiah, it wasn't over. He actually advances to the semifinals.